pilots to have to pay the education portion of their tax?
Never really looked at that as a separate issue, but I believe that would be a good, because there are pros and cons about giving somebody a lengthy tax break where they're not paying anything other than contributing through jobs and people being able to afford houses and paying property taxes and such. But yes, I'd be open to that idea.
I have a question about ethics. So we've experienced multiple ethical questions with current elected officials. How do you think an elected official should conduct themselves in the face of accusations of unethical behavior? Do you actually, I'll stop there.
In the face, well,
Do you think that they should leave office or step down until those things are addressed, or do you believe that?
that's a tough one, because somebody can be accused of something whether or not they've done it or not. And the system they have in place right now probably works fairly well. And if it's a serious enough accusation or indictment, I would hope that the person would go ahead and step aside. And I can't see myself being in that position, but if, heaven forbid that happened to me, I would hope I would step aside and do what's best for the community.
So what strengths do you think that you bring to the council?
I think one of my big ones is coalition building. Having watched the council for close to 20 more years, there used to be a lot more coalition building, not only in the council but in government in general, all across the state and nation. But I believe that if you're not able to form coalitions within a group like that you're really not going to get much done.
And who are some of the strategic coalitions you feel like could be built at this point and to start making that kind of progressive look towards?
Well, some of them have opposition right now, but people like Bill Morrison, Reed Hedgepeth, there's a lot of stuff that Reed does that I don't agree with and totally opposed to, but at times I believe he is open to different views, and I think if you build a coalition with people like that, it would be a whole lot better council.
Are there any groups or other public organizations you feel like that could be part of your work?
Can't think of any particular groups right now, but just the neighborhood coalition groups and such that have interest in ensuring that their neighborhoods are being looked at properly.
What is the current structure of your campaign? So do you have a campaign manager, volunteers?
I have co-campaign managers. One is Ruth Davis, who used to be the president of AFSCME, Local 1733. And then the Reverend Dwight Montgomery from the SCLC is the other co-campaign manager.
What made you select them?
A group of us met, and they Dwight offered up first, and the type of work he does goes right along with my beliefs, so I thought he was a good fit for that. Ruth came along a little bit later, but I've worked with Ruth for a long time, and I respect her opinion and her organizational skills, so I felt like she would be a good co-campaign manager.
How many volunteers do you all have on a regular basis now?
There's not a whole lot on just a regular basis, but all the different unions have committed their membership and other personnel on an as-needed basis. So
you're backed by all the local unions?
Well, I don't. The police association hasn't endorsed me yet, but I've been endorsed by the Memphis AFL-CIO and the Memphis Building Trades Councils and the various different unions. So I think the police association is probably the only one that hasn't actually made a formal endorsement yet.
What was your personal opinion on the consolidation of schools?
Well, my first opinion is that, that people spoke, but I believe it was something necessary to do. I think it's going to be a struggle to get the two sides to come together properly, but I think in the long run, having one entity and one, ultimately, hopefully one funding source, that we're going to have a better system in the long run.
After consolidation occurs and Memphis City is no longer required to fund Memphis City schools, would you be willing to still have some of those funds go towards some type of public education initiative within Memphis?
Yes. As long as the state and the county are properly funding their requirements, the federal has a small portion of it. I'd be open to having some level of funding still coming from the city if it's proven that it's going to programs that are warranted and that it's really something that's at the best interest of the students. So yes, I would at some level.
And what kind of programs would you be apt to support, or do you think we need to support more involving public education?
Obviously, the one I said earlier was the VOTEC programs in the schools. And I'm not quite sure how you could structure it, but we need to have some sort of better program, even beyond the VOTEC, just to prepare the students for the entering the workforce. If they choose not to go to college, they need to be prepared to enter into the workforce and be productive. Working with non-construction groups like Sharp Manufacturing, at times it's real hard to find employees that are prepared to move into the workforce that may have chosen not to go to college. It seems to take a lot of extra training to get them up to speed to function properly.
So you would be willing to spend some of that reserve money that no longer was obligated to the school system to maybe sponsor something like that?
Yes.
Do you have plans to actually bring about that type of change, or is it something, if somebody else brings it forward, you'd be willing to look at it? Is that part of?
No, my hope is to work with originally, the last time around, I had hoped to work with Jeff Warren and people like that on the city school board. But whatever the makeup of the school board is, at least till the merger takes place, we'll be dealing with the current school boards. But yeah, no, I would look to partner with them to try and implement those programs.
Any other questions?
I have a question because I want to know, you talked a lot about your labor work in that as community involvement. Outside of your work-related pieces, what are you most proud of in your community engagement?
One of them is having worked with the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts for close to 15 years, mainly while my son was coming up, but then I stayed with it for about 5 years after he went through it. That was when we were still living down in Whitehaven, and then we had a diverse group and exposed them to a lot of things that they normally wouldn't be exposed to. And then also having worked with our church youth group along at the same time, having taken them on work projects and such, and just community service that type. And then also having served as a volunteer in mission with the United Methodist Church as an electrician on projects.
And one of the things that I want to ask you, just being very direct, you're going to be backed by many of the labor unions.
Yes.
How do you feel like you will be able to balance being pro-labor, but also being able to balance what may be in the best interest of the larger city?
Well, like I stated earlier, and I feel like I'm doing that currently in my job, looking out for the interest of the whole entity, not just one part of it. Even though my main interest is the working people, but I feel like having those experiences and those skills will fit right in with working with both groups. And honestly, a lot of times it's going to be hard with some of the labor groups because they expect hardline positions on certain things, and you can't necessarily take a hard line on some things.
What do you
So-
think could have been done differently in